Alright, here we've got a problem where we have to solve an equation with variables on both sides of the equation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to eliminate those parentheses that you see right here. The way we're going to do that is take the number that's right next to the parentheses, this -2 right here, and we're going to distribute it over that addition. So distribute means we're going to multiply the -2 over the 3x and the 2. And so at the same time, we're going to do the same thing on this other side. So if we don't see a number in between the minus sign and the parentheses, we can always put a 1. We're going to take this -1 and we're going to distribute it over this subtraction. That means we're going to multiply the -1 over 4x minus 3. So when we do that, we'll go ahead and bring down this 5. And when we multiply, we end up with a -6x. I get the -6x because -2 times 3x makes -6x. And then -2 times 2 makes a -4. So I bring down this equal sign. I bring down this 1. And then I multiply this -1 by the 4x. And that gives me -4x. And then I multiply that -1 by the -3, and that gives me a +3. So from this point, we've simplified it a little bit by getting rid of those parentheses, but now we want to simplify it further on both sides of the equal sign by collecting like terms. So the two like terms we see on the left-hand side are that 5 and this -4. We're going to go and collect these two by just combining them. Now, if they are opposite signs, we are going to subtract them like they are in this case. So we get a +1, and we bring down that -6x. And we'll bring down this equal sign, but on the other side, we see some other terms that we can go ahead and combine. So we have this +3 here, and we have this +1. Now, I never look at the sign behind, always the signs in front of the terms. This plus sign, and since there's no sign in front of this 1, that means it's positive. And since these numbers are the same sign, we're going to end up adding those two numbers. So when we add 1 and 3, we end up with 4. And then we just bring down that minus sign, we bring down this 4x. So now we're ready to use equality properties. Equality properties are when we do opposite operations. So we've got a choice. We can either bring x's to the left or to the right. Now sometimes it's nice to have positive variable terms or positive x terms. And so I'm going to go ahead and add the 6x to the left-hand side. And what that does is it cancels out the x term on that side because -6x plus 6x equals 0. But what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other side to keep this equation in balance. So we'll go ahead and add 6 to both sides. And what we're left with is we still have this 1, and we still have this equal sign. We have the 4, and then we bring down the sum of these two, and here we have opposite signs, so we end up having to subtract, and we have 2x as the answer to that subtraction problem. So we have two more steps in this problem. The next step is to bring the constants to the left-hand side. So we always want to bring the variables to one side, these constants to the opposite side. And again, it doesn't matter which way we bring them. We just need to bring them to opposite sides. So we go ahead and subtract the 4 from both sides because what that does is it cancels out this 4 on the right-hand side, bringing the constants to the left. Now I have to subtract those two numbers because they are opposite in sign. This is a -4, +1. They subtract to make -3. Bring down the equal sign and the 2x. Well, there's one last step. Can you guess what it is? Well, it's a division problem. See, the 2 right next to x means we're going to multiply. So we need to divide by 2 to cancel out the 2's on the right-hand side. But again, once we do one thing to one side, we must do the same to the other. So now we've done that division, and 2 doesn't go into 3 evenly, so we've got a choice. Since there's no common factors between the numerator and denominator, we can either leave the answer as -3/2. We can change it to a mixed number and write it as -1 1/2. Or we could go ahead and write it in the decimal form, -1 5/10. That equals x. So the next problem we'll end up seeing is one that deals with specific situations when we have an x term equaling either a 0, or maybe the x terms cancel out altogether.